Warm and fuzzy second copyright Cupiderosbooks, Friday, October 6, 2006. The problem with boys is they have something girls don't have. I overheard two senior high girls say on my way home today. I was never curious about boys until that moment. I've been curious about many things: planets in outer universe, Venus flitter plant, and the sounds dolphins make in the sea. I've been so curious people call me Curious Claire Shore. My older sister, Hope, will soon graduate from Mary Magdalene Catholic School for Girls on Barbary Street. Now that's been prying my brain for years. How'd a school for religious girls get founded on a street named after notorious pirates? I'd asked several times, several people, only to be frustrated by a shocked look and a sneer and a quick change of subjects, like I had said something terribly blush-worthy, and I forgot to blush. Well, isn't it odd? Anyway, my fourth grade school teacher Missy Friday always said, if you have questions, never be afraid to ask. That's the only way to learn. I probably wouldn't be as anxious about boys except for two things. 1. My parents, Kathleen, an accountant, and Weston, a college professor, didn't have enough money to send me the all-girls Catholic school. I was going to Roosevelt Senior High. Roosevelt was co-ed. Grades 12 through 7 all under one building. That's more people than Hope's school. I simply couldn't go to Roosevelt without knowing what the other girls and boys already knew. I'd be a total spaz. And 2, once a subject entangles itself in my mind, I cannot let go. Not until I find the answer. I'm not a ballerina, but I look like one. I have this cute mousy face. The tiny sharp button nose that turns up slightly. The dark thick eyebrows that don't touch, but give my large eyes a sexual character. My flawless oval face and head sports long brunette hair. Yes, I pull my hair back into a practicing ballerina bun. Pepper Hartford is jealous of my looks, but she'd never mention. More on Pepper later. You know, asking boys was out, because boys assumed you wanted sex. How could I have sex if I didn't know what boys looked like? Why boys didn't understand that was baffling in itself. The old chicken and egg problem, I suppose. Heck, I didn't even know why there was a water fountain in the boys' bathroom. The other reason, I owned a Venus flitter plant at home. Somehow this plant annoyed boys. Whatever. I remember looking out the library window at Skip Moya, the local jock. He always played on the uneven bars. Wore a black leather jacket. Holding court. Talking to the younger kids, while he did dangerous somersaults. I couldn't hear a word. Probably some band version of Cinderella or Red Riding Hood. Skip was a bit of an outlaw jock. He kept testing the detention creativity of various teachers. Nevertheless, he had something down there, and he grabbed it several times after he completed a maneuver. The boys seemed in awe to his prowess. Pepper Shop Hartford was our local queen. She wore new clothes every day and would be attending Mary Magdalene. I couldn't imagine how many closets she had. She had long blonde hair, a face like Donna Reed in It's a Wonderful Life. The goddesses and gods have a sense of humor, because Pepper's done everything in the sex and romance books. Everything. But not matter what new outrageous things she does, her squeaky virgin facade of innocence remains. All the girls admired that about Pepper. I admit, Pepper has style. I wanted to ask her what boys look like down there and about sex. But after the Pam Header fiasco, I reconsidered the idea. All the girls were talking at lunch, one day, by the water fountain in the schoolyard. We circled around Pepper. She was holding court as usual. Pepper was never at a loss for words or actions. Occasionally the girls looked at the boys and Skip sighed. Pepper glanced over to Skip. Skip yelled back, "Whore." Pepper yelled back, "You wish." "Loser." Our respective groups laughed. Dark-haired, serious-faced Skip and pretty Pepper hated each other and sneered often enough to make me a believer. They argued in hallways and between class, even in gym. Each kept the other from increasing their coterie of friends or lackeys, take your pick. So I understand why Pam asked how come Pepper and Skip were kissing behind the romance section in the Blockbuster's video store. Pepper flipped her blonde hair and smirked knowingly at us all. You'd know why, if you understood what boys look like. She held the hem of her dress and raised it a bit, flashing us all. We all burst out laughing. She wore these strange, bright yellow happy face panties, only he winked at us with his right eye. She turned around for us all to see. Boys, for all their bragging, cannot stand being alone. They must have someone to hold their hand, someone to have long conversations with during the night. Especially difficult, she lowered her regulations gray school skirt. Her red top bulged with her fast-growing boobs. They hate, she paused, being alone during the spring and summer. When your sex is on the outside, it is like your boobs. Oh. Why, I forgot, Pam. You don't have any boobs. You don't have any hips. Are you sure you're a girl? Pepper grabbed Pam's skirt and tried to lift it. The poor girl stumbled backwards, fell down out of the circle and scrambled onto her feet and ran away. Pepper brushed her hands against one another like she had thrown out the garbage. Gosh, what a stupid, spaz question. Even curious Claire here wouldn't ask such a no-brainer. Pepper flashed her Skittle candy smile. I nodded quickly. No one could refute her Skittle smile. You just nodded and agreed with her. Poor Pam Header might as well be an outcast in Alaska. And Missy Friday might never teach again, if she knew asking questions equaled begging a serial killer to stalk you. Nevertheless, 11 clues stood before me. 1. Boys' problem is that they have something girls don't have. 2. The Magdalene Catholic School for Girls on Barbary Street. I know this will fit in somehow. 3. You have to ask the right people at the right time or you're tossed out cold toast. 4. I simply can't go to Roosevelt without knowing what other girls and boys already knew. 5. I'd know boys, if I understood what boys look like. 6. Happy face panties, winks at you with his right eye. 7. Boys, for all their bragging, cannot stand being alone. 8. They must have someone to hold their hand. 9. Someone to hold long conversations with during the night. 10. Especially difficult, they hate being alone during the spring and summer. And the 11, their sex is like our boobs. Was it this difficult for boys to understand what girls looked like? I quickly dismissed that notion. Boys had their fathers' hidden copies of Playboy. Boys had natural hiding instincts for finding those Playboy magazines. Boys had the internet and the slightest search miscalculation, like Girl Scouts, could bring up a picture of a girl's sex. I'd never accidentally hit a picture of the male sex organ. But perhaps my parents set the adult content level on extremely high. Well, two questions went together. Boys' sex on the outside was like our boobs. I went home and locked my room. I'm a girly girl with the exception of my books, and sometimes I play a game or two. Zelda, you know. Zelda certainly knows what boys look like. You can just tell. Some girls just know. I locked my bedroom door. I got naked and stood in front of the mirror. Yet they were coming in rather nicely, those two. At first, I felt awkward thinking about them when they'd change size again and again. The slight uncomfortable feeling some days made me wish they were gone, but after camp incident, I was terribly glad I had boots, even if they were of the fairy variety. I touched them and I felt a tingling. It felt good. I imagined a boy with a boot down there. Yuck. Besides, how is a boot going to fit inside me? I hoped boy sex wasn't like boobs at all. But there was a slight satisfaction in knowing that boys probably felt tense and tender once a month. I wondered too, if that is why they cannot stand being alone and want to hold hands. Yet, I was getting somewhere. I'd like someone to touch my boots, the right guy of course. Maybe, semi-outlaw shaggy, dark-haired skid boy. Sighed. On the other hand, I've never seen many boys wanting to hold hands with girls. What did Pepper mean by holding hands? I held my own hand, standing there in front of the mirror. I looked like someone caught me by surprise outside standing naked. Dinner time, Claire, and there came the characteristic after the announcement knock on my door. Dinner time, Hope. More knocks on the door down the hall. Well, we are all here for dinner, said my dad. Isn't this nice? Mom said, placing a huge roast on the table. I picked up my fork and began to eat. Carrots, mashed potatoes, gravy, broccoli. Just your standard meal. What's on your mind, curious Claire, said Dad, teasing me. On my mind? Nothing. Well, the usual, school. Class. Going to Roosevelt. Mom said, dear, Roosevelt is going to be fun. Questions are like soap operas or long novels. Each day more information fills in pieces of the void. One day everything snaps into place. The concluding picture appears. As I looked at my parents over dinner, I concluded, nature makes new parents forget all about childhood. In this way, parents can honestly be thrilled at every event they've previously experienced. This amnesia assured the next generation's survival. Hope flashed her normal, healthy, happy smile. You don't know how lucky you are going to a co-ed school. I shook my head. If only they knew the problem of girls today. I'm looking forward to being on the debate team. That's my girl. Honey, isn't Claire wonderful? Weston, you always wanted a boy. Hope laughed. Well, you can forget that. If Claire develops like Mom and I, everyone will know she's a girl from 100 yards away. Mom and I laughed with Hope. Hope was a Scorpio. Scorpios think about sex at least 20 hours a day. No doubt she lowered and raised the adult content setting on her computer whenever she wanted. Being the computer whiz and all. Hope was beautiful in a sexy way. I was beautiful 5 feet tall ballerina. Now, Hope. Let's me dream for a few years more. My curious Claire can join the debate team. I'll help you all I can. Thanks, Dad. You know I have been curious about something. Go ahead, tell us, Claire, said my mom. You know we always want to answer your questions. If we can. Claire added, and if they can't, there's always that Asks Jeeves or Asks Yahoo sites. Did you know your sister works for Asks Yahoo, Claire, said Mom. I didn't. That's so way cool, Hope. Most of the questions are rather simple really, Mom. I wondered, was this a best time or the right time for my question? Your dad can answer any literature question you have to, offered Mom. I can answer any math question you have. Hope can answer computers conundrums. Hope gave me a pinch on the cheek. I smacked her hand away. You know I hate that. Don't be so fussy, little sister. I'll be going to college next year. Hope reached over and pulled a brunette bang from my forehead gingerly. And I'll hardly see you at all. Go ahead, asks, Dad said. Don't be shy, dear. You can ask me now or on Yahoo. I put down my fork. I was happy. How many people had a family like this that showed they care and listened? I smiled. Okay, Mom, Dad, Hope. What do boys look like down there? Mom thaws her red wine. Dear. Cough. Cough. My dad blushed something terrible. Hope burst out laughing. She laughed louder and louder still. Hope, said Dad. I don't think this is the proper reaction to your sister's question. What has brought this up, Claire? My mom put her hand on Dad's hand. Is it your? What baffling reactions. My period's over. You didn't screw up totally, did you? Hope gasped. I shook my head. I'm not pregnant. Dad finally found his breath and the rosy color fled his face. Guys don't look good in makeup, I discovered. Mom removed her hand from my dad's. You said I could ask, I said standing up. You said I could ask anything. Yes, dear. Mom said slowly, trying to calm herself. You can ask any question. I motioned with my finger. I did ask one question. Dad cleared his throat. What? Boys. Well, that's. Dear, what boys look like down there is a compound question. More than one question. I stood in shocked silence. Hope shook her head with glee. This is the most exciting conversation we've had in years. She laughed. Hope, both my parents, shouted, be considerate of your younger sister. They both shook their heads. She's asked a few normal questions. And my parents turned to Hope and locked eyes. And we expect you to answer her questions when dinner is over. My dad shook his head with a great sigh of relief escaping his lips. What? Why me? Because it's the least thing you could do, said my dad, since your work for asks Yahoo. Hope's laugh turned to a sneer. Do I get any Yahoo points? Silence. Any money? Dear, why does everything cost? Because I get paid to answer questions. I don't just answer for free. She's your sister, my mom said. She's weird, though, Hope replied with a dejected smile. I know no matter what I say it's going to be twisted, taken the wrong way. I am not weird. I just want to know things. After all, you're on that damn pirate street. A bunch of virgins. See, Hope said, pointing. I told you. My dad threw his white napkin over his 3/4 eaten dinner plate. Can a simple question about sex do all this? Disrupt us. Apparently, several about questions can, dear, said my mom, getting up. It can. I gleefully sat in my big sister's room. I sat on her pink beanbag chair. Pink and pale yellow walls surrounded us. Hope liked older guys. She had posters on her wall, Beatles, Rolling Stones, Johnny Depp. She lived in a time warp of some sort. And even though I was curious about that, I'd save that for another time. When we needed to argue about something just to talk. She had this record playing, Love, Love, Love. Hope? Yes, she said, sitting reading the lyrics and looking sheepishly at me from time to time. Can we cut the cheesy music? Nope. I'm getting in the intellectual mood. She carefully placed the album down on her divan by her bed. Well, can we turn it down a little? Hope nodded. Sure. That's better. Okay, little sister. I sat up straight. This is going to be good. Why do you think that? Well, isn't it? Hope gave me another exhausted, sheepish expression. She tossed in a hesitant half nod. After a long thoughtful pause, Hope blurted out, "Boys look like carrots." I was expecting something more elegant and winsome, more along the lines of symphony of words. "What do you expect, Claire?" Hope wringed her hands. "That's it. There's nothing to it. Boys are a tube of flesh that gets hard." I crossed my legs under me. I crossed my arms across my budding chest. "I'm not going anywhere until you answer my questions. You know how stubborn I can be when a subject gets into my mind, Hope." I determined she'd have to show me a picture. Show me something dirty. "I know you have some pictures around here." "Actually, I don't. You're going to college next year. That's what boys do: look, gawk, stare, fixate, objectify. Girls, women, don't look at smutty pictures. They read about sex, books, erotica." Hope shrugged her shoulders. I was silent. Then I considered something. "It's okay for you to talk about smutty and goddess knows what else on Ask Yahoo, but you can't even explain what boys look like to your own sister?" "I wasn't prepared," said Hope, slamming her hand down on the beach bed covers. "Neither was I," I shouted back, as I uncrossed my arms. Hope turned up the music again. "Love, love, love." "Hope, then be quiet." I stood up. I went and looked under her bed. "Claire, what are you doing?" "I'm curious about something." Her bed didn't have any monsters or sex magazines. I quickly moved to her closet. I threw open the doors. There was her fashionable clothes, all nice and neat and color coordinated. On the floor about 10 pairs of casual shoes, one nice pair of black pumps. And on the right side corner under her several little black dresses was a chest, tucked away. I stopped and looked back at her with my hopeful smile. She looked like a rabbit caught between a hawk and a cliff edge. I turned back. "No, don't you touch my things." I moved into the corner, as Hope hopped up and ran into me, and we crashed into the small space. There we both fought over the wooden treasure chest, oddly decorated with pirate motifs. "No, Claire. Leave that alone. Smut. Smut. Aha." We struggled over the chest. "So that's where it's kept." "It is not. Playgirl or Playboy." She knocked me on my side. I got my finger on the latch and popped it open. "Stop." I caught a glimpse of something shaped like a larger size red carrot, but then other strange shapes as well. "Okay. Keep your smut." I got up and left the closet and sat back down on the bean chair, thinking how to get her to confess. After all, she must confess all the time at school. Hope brought the 11x20x 3 feet deep size box over to me. "Go ahead, open it up. But it's not my fault if your innocence is debauched." I held the sacred object. It felt like an heirloom being passed down. I opened it, and there it was. "What is this, a mechanical red carrot?" I held the firm, soft, squishy object. My fingers moved accidentally and it started to buzz and squirm in my hand. Something oddly familiar struck me, a pleasant feeling. Then I quickly put the object back in the box and closed it. "Can't take the pleasure of it," Hope said mischievously. She pulled her black hair back into a ponytail. "That's what boys look like. Only they don't stay that way all the time during sex. That can't be what boys look like. I've seen cucumbers and carrots and squash. I want to see the real thing." I blurted out in a mock crying fit. Hope was a sucker for tears. Okay, Claire." Hope reached back into her chest. She pulled out a sketch notebook. She handed it to me. I removed my hands from my dry eyes, my confident smile beaming. You faker. She took it back from my fingertips. I'm not showing you anything. Come on, Hope. You have to help me. I'm a spaz if I don't know what boys look like. You're no spaz, Hope said with a guilty look, as she went back to the bed. You're just a normal girl. I held the object. On the cover was a naked pirate man, standing on a ship sailing on a blue sea. Beside him on the deck, the wind blowing in his hair, was a naked female. Their skin tanned. Hope had colored them. I looked at Hope. She blushed like 16 hours without sunblock in the Bahamas. There it was. The sacred appendage. Rather limp though. Hope motioned with her fingers anxiously. Turn, keep looking. Don't you breathe a word. I smiled wickedly. It was at that moment I realized what all the fuss was over. Sex was dirty. Naughty. Something that stirred up animal emotions we wanted to deny existed. No. I won't. I promise. I gasped. On the next page was a huge drawing of the object in question. Veins bulged from the sides and top. The object floated on the white page in that rather angry expression of need. I could immediately sense the loneliness. Why, it all made sense. I glanced up ecstatic and Hope looked embarrassed. The page felt warm and worn from who knows how many years of use. The next page showed the entire pictorial of boys down there. I turned the sketchbook sideways to put things in their proper placement. Pepper said, boys like for someone to hold their hands. Hope burst out in ecstatic laughter. I began to laugh. Hope stopped. She giggled and held her hand to her lips. I'm debauched now, Hope, I said, flipping page after page. The room was growing warmer. I saw pirates in what could only be coupling positions with scantily wenches or ladies of class. Petticoats thrown over waist and open ties. Pepper must have had an older sister who went to Mary Magdalene. Why do you say that? Said I, feverishly flipping pages. Aha. Yet. There was a female hand with black nail polish, long slender of a super size in front, imposed on the Catholic girls' school. The hand formed a space. The next page showed the object in question inside that large hand. Oh. I went. Yet. Yes. Hope said in the throes of passion. I'm getting this warm and fuzzy feeling. Hope? I would think so. But Pepper said, boys like to have conversations. I kept turning. Only a few pages left out of 50. Hope stood up and turned off the music. Hey, I like that song. Okay. She put it back on, softer, lower. It's a great song. Classic. All I need is love. I can't see why, and I closed the book and fondled it slightly. Claire, conversations is girl sex. I shook my head vigorously and laughed with my big grin at times getting in the way. Not after what you showed me. Hope snatched the chest back, and tossed the sketchbook inside, and snapped the lid close. I could see her crawling back into the closet space. She stood up. Conversation. That is sex. Without good conversation with a guy, you won't have good sex. All that, and she made the hand motion in front of the school picture come to life, is simply physical conversation. But in the end, you can have way more sex with your mind and his mind, your heart and his heart, your soul and his soul. After what I felt, I don't think so. Angrily, well, it is so, Claire. And don't you forget it. Now that you mention ellipsis points, you know Skip and Pepper are always arguing in the hallways. They're in love. Hope went back to her bed and sat down. They just don't know it. That makes sense now. Pam did say she saw them kissing in Blockbusters. When you can have good conversation with a boy, it's like a happy face winking at you. It's wondrous, magnificent, and you can't wait to share your joy with him. You're all sunny. He's all sunny. It's love. Spring and summer? Well, that's when the sap rises, in the spring. It flourishes and blooms in summer. Of course, girls show their true beauty in the spring and summer, and guys just can't resist us. But the problem with boys, I was trying to sound mature now, is that they have something girls don't. Hope gave me a surprised look. You're too young to know that. I think about things. I'm curious after all. The smug expression on Hope's face showed I wasn't convincing. Boys have an exterior space and are always looking for interior space to place it. Because of that, no other interior place will work as well for them. Girls have toys and they can sometimes be even better than boys' exterior space. We have our fingers, cucumbers, carrots, ellipsis points. We both laugh. Those poor boys are left with nothing but us. He he he. Our warm and fuzzy place. Our warm and fuzzies, yet. I didn't know you could draw, big sister. Neither did I, until I got those feelings. I'm not the only one. Many girls at school have those treasure chests. We build off of each other's work. We keep the tradition going. Maybe I'll start the tradition at Roosevelt. That's very unlikely. How do you know? I can learn to draw. I know, because Mom just got a huge promotion and raise. You're going to marry Magdalene when you graduate. Diane. You are. I better start learning to sketch then. Hope pulled out an extra blank sketchbook. You can use this, but find your own images. No two girls' sketchbooks are exactly alike in all the pages. Just a few of them. I giggled. You're catching on fast. I should hope so. The end.